The evacuation alarm screamed through the corridors of Research Station Kepler 442b, their shrill pitch cutting through the chaos like a blade. William Chen sprinted down the metal hallway, his boots clanging against the grated floor as overhead lights flickered in dying gasps. Behind him, the station groaned, a deep, metallic sound that spoke of structural failure and imminent collapse. The neutron star's gravitational anomaly had appeared without warning, tearing through local spacetime like a cosmic predator. Now it was consuming everything in its path, warping reality itself around the station's orbit. Evacuation Pod 7, a voice crackled through William's comm unit. Last pod available. Move, move, move. William rounded the corner and saw it. The final escape pod, its door still open, emergency lights bathing the corridor in crimson. 3 figures were already inside. Dr. Morrison, Chief Engineer Takahashi, and a small, trembling form he recognized instantly. Maya. She was Zythurian, one of the few alien species humanity had encountered in their expansion into the cosmos. At barely 16 orbital cycles, equivalent to a human adolescent, she'd been part of the cultural exchange program. Her skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that normally pulsed with curious greens and blues, but now they flickered erratic amber, the Zythurian expression of pure terror. "William, get in," Morrison shouted, waving frantically. William reached the pod's threshold and stopped. His trained eye swept the interior, standard 4-seat configuration, already at maximum capacity. The manual on the wall spelled it out clearly. Maximum safe occupancy for atmospheric re-entry, 4 passengers. 5 would overload the system. His gaze locked on Maya, curled in the corner seat, her 3-fingered hands gripping the armrests. Her large, opalescent eyes met his, and in that moment, William made a calculation that had nothing to do with mathematics. "Too many," he said simply, stepping back. "What?" Takahashi's face twisted in confusion. 5 passengers. The pod can't handle atmospheric re-entry calculations with overload. Gravitational stress, heat shield distribution. William's voice was calm, almost clinical. He'd run the numbers in his head instantly. "Someone stays behind." "Then we draw lots," Morrison protested. "No time." William's hand moved to the door control. Through the porthole behind them, space itself was beginning to distort, stars stretching into impossible spirals. "Maya goes. She's the youngest. That's non-negotiable." Maya's bioluminescence flashed bright white, shock and protest in Zythurian body language. She started to rise, her translator device struggling to form words in panic standard. "No, you must. I can." "Stay in your seat," William said, his voice gentle but firm. He looked at her directly and something passed between them, an understanding that transcended species. "Your people and mine, we need bridges, not casualties. You're going home, Maya." His hand slammed the door control. The last thing he saw before the pod explosive bolted away was Maya's face pressed against the porthole, her bioluminescence strobing in patterns he couldn't read, her mouth open in what might have been a scream or a vow. Then the pod was gone, a silver bullet racing toward the safety zone. William turned and walked back into the dying station, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridor. He made it to the observation deck, might as well see it coming. The view was magnificent and terrible, reality itself unraveling, the neutron star's gravity creating visual paradoxes that human eyes weren't meant to witness. He thought about his research, years of work on human-alien cognitive compatibility matrices, all stored in servers that would soon be exotic matter. He thought about his sister on Earth, who told him this deep space posting was too dangerous. He thought about Maya's frightened eyes. No regrets, he decided. The universe disagreed. 8 years later, William Chen stood in his laboratory at the New Tokyo University, analyzing protein folding patterns in hybrid genetic sequences. work that had grown from his Kepler 442b research, somehow recovered from backup databases. Against all probability, he'd survived. A mining vessel had detected his emergency beacon 3 hours after the station's destruction, pulling him from a maintenance pod he'd managed to reach at the last second. But survival had come with costs. His left arm was now biosynthetic, the original lost to radiation exposure. His lungs carried scarring from vacuum exposure. Some nights, he still dreamed of that collapsing corridor. The lab door chimed. "It's open," William called absently, not looking up from his holoscreen. "Dr. Chen." The voice made him freeze. He knew that harmonic quality, the slight resonance that came from Zythurian vocal architecture. He turned. Maya stood in his doorway, but not the frightened child from 8 years ago. She'd matured into her full adult form, nearly 6 feet tall, her bioluminescent patterns now flowing in confident, controlled waves of deep blue and silver. She wore the formal robes of a Zythurian diplomatic envoy, marked with symbols William recognized as high honor. "Maya," he breathed. Her opalescent eyes studied him, cataloging every change. "You survived." Her bioluminescence flickered rapidly. Joy, relief, a dozen emotions William had learned to read in his post-rescue studies of Zythurian culture. "I searched for 8 years, every database, every survivor list, and then last month I found your published research." William's biosynthetic hand unconsciously gripped the edge of his desk. "You've been looking for me." Every day, she stepped into the room, her movements carrying a grace he didn't remember. "Do you know what you did when you gave me your seat?" "I made a choice based on." "You violated every human survival protocol," Maya interrupted, her translator capturing the intensity in her native tongue. "Your species has a documented self-preservation imperative. Statistical analysis suggested 94.7% probability you would prioritize your own survival." William managed a slight smile. "I guess I'm in the 5.3%. "You are an outlier." Maya's patterns shifted to warm gold, affection in Zythurian expression. "And you changed everything." She activated a holographic display from her diplomatic satchel. Images bloomed in the air between them. News feeds, government documents, cultural exchange agreements. When I returned to Zythuria and told them what happened, that a human had sacrificed himself for an alien child, it resonated through our entire civilization, Maya explained. "We are a species that values logic, calculation, optimal outcomes. But your action was beyond calculation. It was pure altruism toward a being not of your kind." The holographs shifted, showing footage of Zythurian cities, human Zythurian research facilities, joint colony projects. My testimony became a cultural touchstone. The Council of Resonance used it to authorize full alliance protocols with humanity. Before, we were cautious partners. Now, her bioluminescence intensified. 43 joint research stations, 3 shared colony worlds, a mutual defense pact, technology exchanges that have advanced both our species by decades. William stared at the images, struggling to process. "Because I gave you a seat. Because you proved that humanity could value a single alien life over self-preservation, that your species' capacity for compassion extends beyond tribal boundaries." Maya dismissed the holographs and moved closer. "I became a diplomat because of you, William. I dedicated my life to building the bridge you believed in for 12 seconds in a corridor." She reached into her satchel and produced a crystalline object, a Zythurian memory matrix, capable of storing quantum state information perfectly preserved. "This contains the complete archive of Kepler 442b's research data, every file, every experiment, including all of your work. We recovered it using Zythurian deep scan technology 3 years ago." She placed it gently on his desk. "I've been waiting for the right moment to return it to you." William touched the crystal with his biosynthetic fingers, feeling its cool surface. Years of work, thought lost, now returned. "Why now?" he asked quietly. Maya's patterns shifted to soft violet vulnerability. "Because I needed to become worthy of what you gave me. That seat, yes, but more, you gave me the belief that individuals matter, that single choices ripple outward in ways we cannot predict." She paused, her bioluminescence steadying. "You saved my life, William Chen. I wanted to help save your life's work." William looked at her, really looked. In her eyes, he saw not just the grateful child, but a leader who'd transformed personal trauma into diplomatic revolution. She'd taken his split-second decision and built a bridge between civilizations. "Thank you," he said, and meant it for so much more than the return data. Maya's patterns cycled through colors William had learned meant deep satisfaction. "There is a joint human-Zythurian colony being established in the Kepler 442 system. They want to name the cultural center after you." And, she hesitated, a very human gesture she'd learned. "They need a director of interspecies research, someone who understands both the science and the compassion required." William smiled, a real smile this time. "Are you offering me a job?" "I am offering you a chance to continue what you started in that corridor, to prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't your technology or your adaptability, it's your capacity to care for the other." Her bioluminescence blazed bright. "Also, I would very much like to work with you again. I owe you 8 years of collaboration." William looked at his laboratory, at the crystalline data matrix, at the alien diplomat who traveled light years to find him. He thought about that moment on the evacuation pod, about the calculation he'd made with his heart instead of his head. The universe had disagreed with his sacrifice then. But perhaps the universe had been wrong. "When do we start?" he asked. Maya's patterns exploded in joyful rainbow cascades. "Immediately, if you wish. Our transport leaves in 3 days." As William began making arrangements, explaining to stunned colleagues that he'd be leaving for the Kepler 442 system, he realized something profound. His choice hadn't just saved one life, it had rewritten the trajectory of 2 species. Sometimes the most human thing you can do is to see past humanity itself. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe gives you a second chance to build the future you believed in. 8 years and Maya had come back. Not for revenge, not for closure, but to say thank you and to ask him to help her change the galaxy. William Chen, outlier in the 5.3%, smiled and accepted. And,